The series begins with a handsome and charismatic man named Woo Yeo. He has always been popular with many women since the Joseon era. But Woo Yeo is not an ordinary human, cause he is a nine-tailed fox. He collects energy from many women to make a special bead. If he can turn this bead blue before he reaches 1,000 years old, he can become a human. Now, in the modern era, Woo Yeo is 999 years old, meaning he has about 1 year left to turn his bead blue. He currently works as a professor at a university in Seoul. On the other hand, there is a student named Lee Dam, who is helping her friend Jae-jin after he recently broke up with his girlfriend. Their other friend, Choi-yoon, had to leave them for a night class. Jae-jin, who is very drunk, runs away from Lee Dam. When she chases after him, she finds Jae-jin hugging someone's car, thinking it's his girlfriend's. Lee Dam apologizes to the car owner, who happens to be Woo Yeo. Since Lee Dam is a student, Woo Yeo doesn't ask for compensation. As Lee Dam tries to leave, she trips and Woo Yeo catches her hand. But by accident, she presses Woo Yeo's chest, causing his bead to come out and enter her body. The next morning, Lee Dam is shocked to wake up in someone else's house. It turns out Woo Yeo brought her to his home because he needs to get his bead back. Woo Yeo then reveals to Lee Dam that he is a gumiho, a nine-tailed fox. He asks her to stay with him so he can keep the bead safe. At first, Lee Dam doesn't believe him, so Woo Yeo has no choice but to show his true form. This scares Lee Dam so much that she screams and faints. After waking up, Lee Dam runs away from Woo Yeo's house. She is so scared that she locks all the doors in her house, but it turns out that her brother, Lee Dan, is the one who comes home. At that time, Lee Dam is still very frightened, so she follows Lee Dan everywhere. Eventually, Lee Dam tells him that she met a gumiho, but Lee Dan, who is an archer, points his arrow at her and tells her to leave. The next day, while Lee Dam is going to campus by bus, she accidentally touches a man and suddenly feels a terrible stomachache, even though she didn't eat anything strange. Lee Dam then realizes that the pain happens whenever she touches someone born in the year of the tiger. The only way to make the pain go away is for Woo Yeo to touch her. Because of this, Lee Dam returns to Woo Yeo, and he asks her to stay with him, so he can take care of her. After some thinking, Lee Dam says goodbye to her brother, but Lee Dan thinks his sister is going to live with her boyfriend. When Lee Dam arrives at Woo Yeo's house, they officially introduce themselves to each other. On her first night there, Lee Dam is really scared, especially when she sees Woo Yeo holding something sharp. But the next morning, she finds Woo Yeo in the kitchen, cooking, and he looks super cool. While staying at Woo Yeo's place, he makes sure she has all her favorite foods, including ice cream. Woo Yeo even pays for her college tuition. One day, Woo Yeo tells her that he will go to Singapore for a few days, and Lee Dam's friends invite her to a nightclub. At the club, Lee Dam looks very stylish because her mom, who works as a magazine editor in America, sent her those clothes. But inside the club, Lee Dam once again bumps into a man born in the year of the tiger, which makes her body weak. And Woo Yeo, sensing that something is wrong, quickly goes to find her. The man even tries to take Lee Dam outside the club, but luckily, Woo Yeo arrives in time to save her. Soon after, he takes her away from the man and brings her back home. After she feels better, Lee Dam apologizes for putting herself in danger and making Woo Yeo come all the way to rescue her. Woo Yeo tells her that it's his job to keep her safe because it also keeps the bead inside her safe. However, if the bead isn't removed within a year, something bad will happen. There, Woo Yeo assures her that they have time to find a way to remove it. Feeling guilty, Lee Dam starts trying to figure out how to fix the situation, so everything ends well. One day, Lee Dam sees Jae-jin crying again. They go out to eat Lee Dam's favorite food, fried chicken, and she eats a lot. But the next day, Woo Yeo makes a deal with her. He says Lee Dam must avoid men born in the year of the tiger, stop drinking alcohol, and she can't eat her favorite fried chicken anymore. He explains that chicken blood is used to keep bad luck away. One day, when Lee Dam arrives at campus, a young man recklessly drives a car and almost hits Suk-young. The guy is Guy Sun-woo, a student from the 2017 batch, known for being a playboy. As Lee Dam is walking, someone suddenly calls her, and it turns out to be Guy Sun-woo. He calls her because her jacket fell. Knowing that 2017 is the year of the tiger, Lee Dam tells Sun Woo to just put her jacket on the ground. Although confused, he does what she says. After picking up her jacket, Lee Dam walks away. Later, Lee Dam nearly trips while avoiding some senior guys, but she is saved by another senior who was luckily born in the year of the rabbit. Soon after, Lee Dam is invited to a student gathering where they said there would be lots of meat, but it turns out there's only fried chicken, which she can't eat. So, she decides to leave, but she almost bumps into Guy Sun Woo again, forcing her to keep her distance. Meanwhile, Sun Woo finds out Lee Dam's name from Jae-jin, and Lee Dam already knows his name too. Sun Woo then asks if they can be friends. But there, Lee Dam keeps trying hard to avoid Sun Woo, who was born in the year of the tiger. Even when she falls down, she would rather roll on the ground than touch him. After getting home, Lee Dam gets upset with Woo Yeo for not letting her eat her favorite fried chicken. She then tells Woo Yeo to quit smoking, which he's been doing for hundreds of years. Then, they make a deal with each other that they will keep updating each other on finding a way to remove the bead. Woo Yeo will stop giving cold looks, and he will quit smoking. As time goes on, Woo Yeo thinks the deal is easy, but he keeps staring at his cigarettes until Lee Dam takes them away. Woo Yeo also becomes really fussy, constantly nagging Lee Dam, though he's forced to smile because he promised to stop giving cold stares. However, Lee Dam believes Woo Yeo's sudden sensitive behavior is because he's trying to quit smoking. One day at campus, while Lee Dam is about to buy a drink, Sun Woo comes up to her and asks her to buy one for him too. Then, Sun Woo grabs Lee Dam's phone and calls his own number so they can have each other's contact. Later that night, Sun Woo sends Lee Dam a message, asking her to save his number. But suddenly, Lee Dam gets startled by the sound of a cat, and she accidentally drops her phone into the basement. When she goes down to get it, she becomes curious about the room, so she steps inside. Once inside, the door closes and she gets stuck. It turns out Woo Yeo is also trapped in the room. He borrows Lee Dam's phone to call a repairman. While waiting for the door to be fixed, Woo Yeo shows her the historical items he has collected over hundreds of years. Lee Dam is fascinated by them because she is also a history major. To cheer up Lee Dam, since she can't eat chicken, Woo Yeo cooks duck for her, but it doesn't taste as good as it looks. Lee Dam ends up with a stomachache. A while later, Sun Woo texts her, asking to meet up so he can pay her back for the drink, but Lee Dam can't because she has to fix a clogged toilet. She asks Sun Woo for help, and he guides her step by step on how to fix it. When she successfully unclogs the toilet, Lee Dam is so happy and grateful for Sun Woo's help that she promises to treat him to a meal. One day, while talking with Woo Yeo, Lee Dam suddenly thinks of a nickname for him. She feels it's too formal to always call him Mr. Gumiho. So from now on, Lee Dam decides to call him Ori-shin. One night, Ori-shin dreams about his past life during the Joseon dynasty. When Lee Dam sees him standing outside at night, she approaches him. She tells him that she's been so focused on her own problems, but realizes that Ori-shin has had a tough situation for a very long time too. Ori-shin had dreams, and all of them could be destroyed. Just thinking about it must be hard. Lee Dam also feels guilty, thinking that it's partly her fault. After Lee Dam leaves, Ori-shin remembers how hard things have been for her as well. He even recalls seeing her cry. Ori-shin actually knows how to remove the bead from Lee Dam's body. In the end, he decides to tell Lee Dam to leave and forget everything. He plans to erase her memory, saying that everything was just a dream. Soon after, Ori-shin moves closer to kiss Lee Dam, planning to take back his bead. But just as he's about to do it, the bead inside Lee Dam suddenly changes color. Ori-shin stops himself and doesn't go through with his plan. When Lee Dam is about to leave, he grabs her hand and hugs her. Later, Ori-shin talks to his friend Hai-sun, who is also a former gumiho, and tells her that the bead turned blue when he tried to take it, but then it turned red again. Hai-sun suggests that he should start dating Lee Dam. When Lee Dam returns, she asks Ori-shin why he hugged her. He explains that at first, he wanted to let her go, but then he realized he needed to figure out what was happening with the bead. Following Hai-sun's advice, Ori-shin asks Lee Dam to date him. However, Lee Dam refuses not because he's a gumiho, but because Ori-shin isn't her type. At campus, Sun Woo tells Soo Kyung that he helped Lee Dam with her project. So now he's asking her to have a meal together. Since Lee Dam didn't have enough cash that day, Sun Woo offers to pay. At that time, Sun Woo doesn't mind, as he actually wanted to take Lee Dam out for a meal from the start. The truth is, he was doing all this because of a bet with his friends. He said he would get Lee Dam. Meanwhile, Shin calls Hae-sun and tells her that he asked Lee Dam to date him, but she turned him down because he wasn't her type. Then, Hae-sun teases Shin, saying that dating him wouldn't make Lee Dam happy anyway. On the other hand, Sun Woo keeps sticking close to Lee Dam and even invites her to watch a movie on the weekend. Lee Dam comes up with a plan to make him lose interest in her and back off. The next day, to make Lee Dam happy, Shin buys a lot of food for her. Afterward, Lee Dam tells him that she wants her senior to stop bothering her. When Shin hears that the guy was born in the year of the tiger, he immediately agrees to help by pretending to be on a date with her. The following day, Shin dresses up very nicely, even though it's just for practice. He then suggests that Lee Dam wear an old brown t-shirt with a stretched-out neckline, saying she looks bad in it, which could help. During their meal, Lee Dam practices eating messily in front of Shin. However, he advises her to eat like she did the other day when she had jjajangmyeon. That day, Lee Dam ate with her mouth covered in sauce and made loud slurping noises. Shin also suggests that Lee Dam act rude while drinking hot beverages. He even tells her to use harsh words when talking to Sun Woo, as he once overheard her talking like that on the phone with a friend. Shin is sure that all of this will annoy Sun Woo. After hearing his advice, Lee Dam sighs in relief, realizing she doesn't have to try too hard and can just be herself. Later, as they walk home, they pass by an archery range. There, Shin decides to give it a try and scores a perfect 10 with every arrow. It's easy for him since he was a soldier in the past. He wins a stuffed animal as a prize and gives it to Lee Dam. This gives her an idea to smile awkwardly in front of Sun Woo to push him away. But this time, Shin stops her, saying that when she smiles like that, she actually looks cute. One day, Sun Woo is at a cafe with his friends when he spots Lee Dam with another guy, so he decides to follow her. Just as Sun Woo is about to touch her, Shin pulls Lee Dam away. At that time, Sun Woo tries to talk about their upcoming weekend date, but Shin interrupts, saying they need to leave. Shortly after, Sun Woo leaves after patting Lee Dam's head, which causes her to feel sick again. That moment, Shin stays by her side and touches her stomach to help ease the pain. The next day, Lee Dan comes to her campus. He runs into Jae-jin and says he's looking for his sister because she's been staying at a friend's house for 2 weeks. Jae-jin doesn't know about this, so they both feel something isn't right. They also notice that for 2 weeks, Lee Dam hasn't been eating chicken or drinking alcohol, which makes them suspicious. Then, they decide to follow her and are shocked when they see Lee Dam with a guy. They overhear them talking about a bead, while Shin touches her stomach, and they start to believe Lee Dam might be pregnant. Lee Dan calls out to his sister, and they end up at Shin's house. Both Lee Dan and Jae-jin get upset, accusing Shin of not loving Lee Dam and saying he won't marry her. They even plan to hit him and throw juice at him, but Shin stops them and erases their memories of that day. Lee Dam gets angry at Shin for always solving problems by erasing memories. Worried about her brother, she runs home, but when she arrives, she finds Lee Dan's friends hanging out there, planning to sleep over. Lee Dam is even told to leave by Lee Dan. With no other choice, she goes back to Shin's house again. Moments later, Shin apologizes, saying he doesn't think like a human. All this time, he's just been copying what he has seen for a long time. That night, he sees Lee Dam falling asleep while doing her homework and gently covers her with a blanket. The weekend arrives. Instead of going to the movies, Lee Dam takes Sun Woo to eat jjajangmyeon by the Han River. She uses her messy eating style, making Sun Woo lose interest in her. As they head home, it starts raining and Sun Woo doesn't have his car, so they run to the bus stop. There, Lee Dam teaches Sun Woo how to ride the bus. Soon after, she runs home, but suddenly someone comes to cover her with an umbrella. It's Shin, who was worried because Lee Dam wasn't answering her phone. Meanwhile, Hae-sun decides to go to campus, wanting to study and become a smart woman. That night, Shin gets worried because Lee Dam comes home late. He finally agrees with Hai-sun's suggestion to send her to campus so he can keep an eye on Lee-dam. When Hai-sun arrives at campus, she catches everyone's attention with her beauty, including Lee-dam and Soo-kyung. On the first day of class, the professor assigns them a task to form romantic relationships with their classmates and report on it. The professor picks their partners, pairing Hai-sun with Jae-jin and Lee-dam with Sun-woo. After class, Lee-dam tells Sun-woo that they should just make up a story for their assignment and don't need to actually date. But Sun-woo, having lots of free time, invites her to go on a real date on Saturday. Later, Sun-woo and some senior students gather and start talking badly about Lee-dam's appearance and behavior. Unfortunately, Soo-kyung overhears them while sitting with Lee-dam. There, Lee-dam responds by saying that they're just as bad for judging people only by how they look. After Lee-dam leaves, Sun-woo chases her to explain that he didn't say anything, but Lee-dam points out that he laughed along with them. Even some of Lee-dam's teammates start gossiping behind her back and cause trouble in the library. Then, Lee-dam tells them they don't need to pretend to be friends anymore, since they're already good at talking behind her back. Eventually, they all leave her to finish the project on her own. Feeling frustrated by how unfairly she's being treated, Ori-shin arrives to pick her up. Suddenly, Lee-dam breaks down in front of him, sharing her sadness. But after Ori-shin comforts her, she starts feeling better. When Lee-dam gets sick, Ori-shin apologizes, not realizing that she's just having her period. To cheer her up, he buys all of Lee-dam's favorite foods. On Saturday, Hai-sun goes on a date with Jae-jin, and they head to the movies, where they run into Lee-dam and Sun-woo. But the truth is, it's actually Ori-shin disguised as Lee-dam. Later, Ori-shin, tired from the day, falls asleep on the couch. Lee-dam gently covers him with a blanket and stays beside him until she falls asleep too. When Ori-shin wakes up, he remembers Hai-sun's words, saying that if feelings are involved, things won't end well. After that, Ori-shin starts avoiding Lee-dam. Lee-dam notices Ori-shin avoiding her and asks Soo-kyung why he might be doing that, but Soo-kyung thinks that Lee-dam must like someone, which is why she's so concerned. When Lee-dam gets home, she tries to talk to Ori-shin, but he tells her not to share anything unless it's important, saying they're just two people who got involved by accident. Feeling confused by Ori-shin's behavior, Lee-dam wonders if something happened during her date with Sun-woo, but after looking into it, everything seems fine. Later, when Sun-woo is walking Lee-dam home, he asks about the guy she's been seen with. There, Lee-dam explains that it's just someone she met by chance and nothing more. On her way home, Lee-dam spots Ori-shin at a cafe near her house and decides to approach him. She tells him that she doesn't want him to act cold toward her anymore and asks if they can go back to how things were before. In the end, Ori-shin agrees and starts asking about her studies and her seniors. He also shares a story about Fermi Nadaza, which deeply moves Lee-dam. Later, Lee-dam tells the story to Soo-kyung and Jae-jin, pretending it's about a friend of hers. She says her friend felt her heart race and had trouble breathing. And Soo-kyung, realizing the story is about Lee-dam herself, says that she must be in love, but Lee-dam insists that it's impossible. One day at campus, Jae-jin thinks that Lee-dam was talking about him to Sun-woo, but Soo-kyung tells him that it wasn't about him. Meanwhile, Ori-shin keeps turning down invitations from a fellow professor named Eugene, saying he feels uncomfortable eating with others. But when Lee-dam calls him, Ori-shin, who had already arrived home, leaves again just to pick her up. However, when he gets to the campus, Hai-sun gets into his car instead. Then, Ori-shin panics when he sees Lee-dam getting closer to the car. So, he uses his powers to move Hai-sun out of the way. By the time Lee-dam reaches the car, Hai-sun is no longer there. On the other hand, Hai-sun ends up in Jae-jin's car. Seeing her in the front seat, Jae-jin decides to give her a ride home, but his old car breaks down on the way. Soon after, Lee-dam and Ori-shin are taking a walk by the Han River, snapping some photos. Lee-dam posts one of the photos on her social media story, and when Sun-woo sees it, he starts wondering who she went with. Remembering Jae-jin once told him that Lee-dam likes nice guys, Sun-woo asks his younger sister, Seo-woo, what that means. She explains that it means a guy who behaves well, but she points out that Sun-woo is known as a playboy. Meanwhile, Jae-jin continues to believe that Lee-dam likes Sun-woo and even thinks about setting them up. Soo-kyung then tells him that there's another guy. She had seen this man picking up Lee-dam, and she's sure he's the one Lee-dam mentioned last week, saying their relationship had become distant. Realizing that Lee-dam hasn't told him anything, Jae-jin gets upset and starts avoiding her. Later, Lee-dam talks to Ori-shin about Jae-jin, and Ori-shin decides to cheer her up by taking her out for some soju. During their time together, he tells her that he likes how she's always honest with herself. After hearing this, Lee-dam admits that she likes him too. But the next morning, after she sobers up, she feels super embarrassed just thinking about it. On Friday, Lee-dam asks Ori-shin for an update on finding a way to remove the bead, but Ori-shin lies, saying he hasn't found a solution yet. Later, at campus, Soo-kyung sees Lee-dam sitting alone on the stairs. She approaches her and apologizes for telling Jae-jin about the man who picked up Lee-dam. Soo-kyung also realizes that the man Lee-dam was talking about is the same person. Lee-dam then confesses that she might be starting to like him, even though she knows she shouldn't. On the other hand, Jae-jin overhears Sun-woo's friends talking about a bet involving Lee-dam. Furious, Jae-jin confronts Sun-woo, and they end up fighting. After they are separated, Lee-dam stands there, having heard everything. Sun-woo chases after her, apologizing for using her as part of a bet. When Lee-dam gets home, she doesn't go inside right away. She sits in front of Ori-shin's house, feeling upset. And Ori-shin, who was about to go look for her, sees her sitting alone and puts his jacket on her. There, Lee-dam tells him that he is special and very important to her. Ori-shin says the same to her, but adds that Lee-dam feels more like a niece to him. This makes her upset, so she starts calling Ori-shin uncle because she now feels like his niece. Later, Lee-dam shares with Jae-jin and Soo-kyung that she confessed her feelings, but the guy only sees her as a niece. Soo-kyung then suggests that Jae-jin set up a blind date for Lee-dam. One day, while spending time with Ori-shin, Lee-dam accepts the blind date offer, and Ori-shin agrees to it. Meanwhile, Jae-jin asks Hae-sun to teach Lee-dam how to catch a guy's attention. On the day of the date, Lee-dam dresses up so beautifully that Ori-shin can't stop staring at her. She's dressed up because she has her blind date later that afternoon. Before the date, Hae-sun teaches her some tips on how to play it cool to impress her date. The guy Jae-jin set her up with is named Jae-hun, but he turns out to be extremely arrogant and full of himself. He constantly brags about how great he is. Before entering the coffee shop, Lee-dam tells Jae-hun to go in first while she steps aside to call Ori-shin, telling him that the date is going well. But when she walks inside, to her surprise, Ori-shin is there too, sitting at a nearby table. When Jae-hun steps outside to take a call, Ori-shin tells Lee-dam that they'll pretend not to know each other and that she shouldn't pay attention to him. However, Jae-hun is not only arrogant, but he also insults Lee-dam, making fun of her low GPA and saying she has no future. He even says he won't ask her out again. Angered, Ori-shin uses his powers to pull the chair, causing Jae-hun to fall. On the way home, Ori-shin asks Lee-dam why she was upset when he called her his niece. He explains that what he really meant was that she is special to him. To cheer her up, Ori-shin takes Lee-dam to the History Museum to make her smile. He also tells her not to let Jae-hun's words bother her, assuring her that her dreams and goals will come true. After Ori-shin finds out that Hae-sun was the one teaching Lee-dam how to attract a guy, he goes to talk to her. Hae-sun tells him that all this time, Ori-shin hasn't been good at handling things when he has someone special to him. One day, while Lee-dam is hanging out with her friends, her mom calls, asking for her friend's address, saying she wants to send some clothes there. Soon after, Lee-dam sends the address, thinking it's impossible for her mom to fly from America just to come. But soon after, Lee-dam calls and tells her that their mom is actually in Seoul. Shocked, Lee-dam screams and rushes home. But she's too late cause her mom has already arrived at Ori-shin's house. Ori-shin, on the other hand, is super nervous meeting Lee-dam's mom. He doesn't even know what to say. When Lee-dam arrives, they both struggle to answer her mom's questions. In the end, Lee-dam tells Ori-shin to use his powers. But after Ori-shin tries, nothing happens. It turns out Lee-dam's mom wasn't mad about her staying with Ori-shin. She just didn't like that Lee-dam lied to her. Before leaving, her mom even says that she approves of Lee-dam's choice. From a distance, Shin watches Lee Dam and her family hug as they say goodbye to her mom, who's heading back to America. It's then that Shin realizes what having a family is really like. When Lee Dam gets home, she tells Shin that he has her, and she wants to be like family to him. That night, a cat is seen watching Shin from outside the window. Shin is looking into several cases of women being murdered, and he recognizes the victims. He starts to worry that the killer might target the women around him. Concerned for Lee Dam's safety, Shin decides to start picking her up and dropping her off at school. He talks to Hae-sun about it, and she agrees that even though the victims were people connected to Shin in the past, it's safer if he stays close to Lee Dam. Shin asks Hae-sun to watch over Lee Dam on campus, and Hae-sun agrees, sticking to Lee Dam like glue. She even keeps her eyes on Lee Dam like a CCTV camera. Hae-sun even twists Jae-jin's arm when he tries to surprise Lee Dam. One day, while Lee Dam is at the bookstore, she meets a man dressed in white. The man greets her and warns her to be careful. But when Shin arrives, the man quickly leaves. Later, to help Lee Dam with her school project, Shin shows her a historical silk plaque. After her exams, she invites Shin to go on a trip to a temple, and he agrees. Before going back to her room, Lee Dam borrows an old poetry book and accidentally finds a painting of a beautiful woman named Soo-ah. Curious, Lee Dam asks Shin about her, and he explains that Soo-ah was his first love. A few days later, Lee Dam sees a flower seller who looks exactly like Soo-ah, Shin's first love. When Shin calls, saying he's coming to pick her up, Lee Dam tries to say no, but Shin is already on his way. While they are walking, just as Shin is about to look at the flower seller, Lee Dam stops him and suggests they leave quickly. Later, Lee Dam tells Jae-jin that she feels jealous of Shin's first love. Even though it seems silly, that's how she truly feels. After that, Lee Dam runs into Sunwoo, and he tells her that he has quit smoking because he knows she doesn't like it. Just then, Hae-sun shows up and takes Lee Dam away. Feeling a bit strange about Hae-sun's sudden concern, Lee Dam asks why, and Hae-sun almost admits that Shin asked her to watch over her. But instead, Hae-sun says that a monk told her to be kind to others. Once again, the man Lee Dam met at the bookstore is watching her from afar. Unexpectedly, Shin and Hae-sun confront the man, and it turns out they know him. He is the one who told Shin to gather energy and become human. And the man, who calls himself a mountain spirit or Shin, has also been protecting Lee Dam from a fox spirit that failed to become human after 1,000 years, and is now trying to steal Shin's bead. At that time, Shin warns Shin to stop paying attention to the flower seller. Later, Shin goes to see the woman. He tells Lee Dam to go home first while he approaches the flower seller. It turns out that the woman who looks like Soo-ah is actually the evil spirit Shin warned him about. After coming back from the flower shop, Shin meets Lee Dam and promises to protect her. He even stays with her while she studies, watching her the whole time, which makes Lee Dam feel flustered and nervous. After the exams were over, Lee Dam complained to her friends about how her test didn't go well because she couldn't concentrate the night before. She also told Shin that he didn't need to pick her up since she was going to study with her friends, not knowing that Shin was already there. While Lee Dam was alone in the library, she was bothered by an evil spirit that had disguised itself as Shin. Luckily, the real Shin arrived just in time, took the evil spirit away, and managed to defeat it. Afterward, Shin met with Shin and warned him not to end up like that evil spirit. After her second exam, Lee Dam was so happy that she ran toward Shin, tripped, and ended up hugging him. As promised, they went on a trip after the exams were over, visiting a temple. At the temple, they found a stone and made wishes. At that moment, Shin wished for Lee Dam to never get hurt, while Lee Dam wished to come back to the temple with Shin after he becomes human. While at the temple, Shin finally confessed that he had known how to remove the bead from the beginning and had been lying all along. He then cast a spell on Lee Dam to make her forget everything. When she woke up, Shin kissed her to take the bead back from her. After leaving Shin's house, Lee Dam goes back to her usual activities on campus. But after parting ways with her friends, She breaks down in tears because Shin wasn't able to fully erase her memories. As Lee Dam cries while crouching in the middle of the road, Sun Woo sees her and asks what's wrong. Meanwhile, Sun also notices Lee Dam crying while sitting with Sun Woo. She rushes to tell Shin, saying that Lee Dam is upset because of him. However, Shin doesn't believe it since he had erased Lee Dam's memories of him, even the memories of her friends who had met him. Sun, however, refuses to continue watching over Lee Dam and tells Shin to go see her himself if he's that worried. Later, Lee Dam invites her friends to eat and drink soju, trying to have fun, but she still unconsciously avoids men, a habit she developed earlier, even though she no longer has to. Meanwhile, Shin sits alone, thinking about what Sun said about seeing Lee Dam cry. At the same time, Sun Woo is feeling unsure whether to message Lee Dam or not, when Seo Woo teases him by grabbing his phone and sending a message to Lee Dam. Soon after, Lee Dam sees the message and replies to Sun Woo. Confused by the reply, Sun Woo asks Seo Woo for advice, and in the end, he decides to call Lee Dam. One day, Lee Dam stands alone in the rain, feeling like she's in a sad drama scene. Just as she's about to run, someone holds an umbrella over her, and once again, it's Shin. Then, they walk together silently, not saying a word. Soon after, Soo-kyung arrives, and Lee Dam gets ready to leave. But when Shin offers her the umbrella, she refuses to take it. At that moment, he realizes that he no longer means anything to Lee Dam. Later, Lee Dam and Soo-kyung find Jae-jin looking sad. But when they discover it's because of his ex, Jin-ah, they decide to leave him alone. In class, Lee Dam is shocked to see that Shin has become the new professor on campus. The female students are really excited about him. Afterward, as Lee Dam is about to leave with Jae-jin, Jin-ah shows up and is clearly not happy with Lee Dam. She wants Jae-jin to go with her, and Jae-jin agrees. He later sends a message to Lee Dam, apologizing and admitting that seeing Jin-ah made him feel weak. Lee Dam realizes that her feelings for Shin are probably similar to how Jae-jin feels about Jin-ah. After that, a senior named Young-suk invites Lee Dam to join in welcoming the new professor, who turns out to be Shin. At that time, Lee Dam has to attend since she's the student council president, even though she feels really uncomfortable seeing Shin and pretending to have lost her memory. Meanwhile, Jin-ah tells Jae-jin that she left him because she was confused about whether she liked him or someone else. Unexpectedly, Sun overhears their conversation. When Sun tries to leave, Jae-jin greets her. Hearing that they're going on a date on Saturday, Jin-ah boldly asks Jae-jin to meet her on the same day. Jin-ah even asks Jae-jin to postpone his plans, but Jae-jin firmly says he won't cancel his date for her and won't meet her again. On the other hand, Lee Dam panics when the elevator doors open, and she sees both Shin and Sun Woo inside. When the elevator suddenly shakes, both Shin and Sun Woo try to help her, but Lee Dam lets go of Shin's hand and thanks Sun Woo instead. After leaving the elevator, Shin watches as Lee Dam takes Sun Woo's hand and walks away with him. Lee Dam then confesses to Sun Woo that she wasn't the one who sent the sweet message to him. Sun Woo already knew, saying that it was obvious since she wouldn't use cute emojis. Suddenly, Sun Woo then tells Lee Dam that he likes her. At that moment, Lee Dam doesn't respond, but later, she looks for Sun Woo to tell him that she likes someone else. And Shin, who had been following Lee Dam, overhears their conversation. Later, Jae-jin and Lee Dam meet and talk about their experiences. They both feel like they're in the same situation, wondering why the people they're supposed to forget keep showing up in their lives, as if they're meant to be there. One day, Jae-jin, who still has bad habits when drunk, accidentally damages someone else's car again, and this time, it's Sun's side mirror. Surprisingly, Shin is with Sun. This makes Lee Dam curious about why they are together, but she simply helps Jae-jin and walks away, while Shin follows them from behind. Shin then starts wondering if the person Lee Dam likes is actually Jae-jin. That moment, Shin starts to realize that his feelings for Lee Dam are different from how he feels about family. He also remembers what Sun once asked him, that would he be okay if Lee Dam started dating someone else, loving someone else, and eventually leaving his life forever. Now, he isn't sure he would be okay if that happened. The next day, Jae-jin keeps asking Lee-dam if it's true that he damaged Hae-sun's car, as he can't believe it. Sun-woo also thinks that Lee-dam might like Jae-jin. Jae-jin later meets with Hae-sun to ask about the cost of the car repair, but Hae-sun says she got rid of the broken car. Afterward, Ori-shin asks Hae-sun how she can fall in love again, even though every time she falls in love, it hurts her. Meanwhile, Sun-woo shows a picture of Jae-jin to Seo-woo, asking her to compare them. Seo-woo praises her brother's good looks, saying he's better. Feeling cheered up, he gives Seo-woo some money as a reward. On the other hand, Jae-jin finds it strange that Ori-shin didn't go on the history trip, yet he was there the day Jae-jin damaged Hae-sun's car. Curious, Soo-kyung asks Hae-sun about it. Hae-sun explains that it was just a small accident involving her and Ori-shin. But this makes Lee-dam wonder what Hae-sun really meant. Later, Lee-dam notices Hae-sun eating chicken like normal and not avoiding men born in the year of the tiger. Seeing this, Lee-dam realizes that Ori-shin's bead isn't with Hae-sun. As they were continuing their day, Hae-sun took a picture of Jae-jin, Lee-dam, and Sun-woo talking and sent it to Ori-shin. Hae-sun also answered Ori-shin's earlier question, saying she wouldn't give up on love without trying, and she didn't want to be stuck in the past. When Lee-dam was presenting her report about historical objects, she forgot to mention that she had touched one of them. Her professor didn't believe her, even though Lee-dam really had touched it when she was with Ori-shin. She ended up changing her words. Suddenly, her paper flew away and Ori-shin picked it up. He had been there the whole time, listening to her presentation. At that time, Ori-shin became worried when he saw Lee-dam going to the pile of stones where they had made their wishes together. From a distance, he watched her standing in front of their stone tower, realizing that Lee-dam had been pretending to lose her memory all along. Later, while eating with friends, Sun-woo helped Lee-dam grill some meat, and their friends teased them about it. Afterward, Lee-dam asked Hae-sun about the accident she had with Ori-shin. Hae-sun explained that she accidentally bumped into his car and then gave him a ride. Hae-sun then met with Ori-shin, telling him that Lee-dam remembered everything. In the end, Ori-shin went to Lee-dam and asked her about her memories, realizing that her memory was never really erased. At that moment, Lee-dam gets angry when Ori-shin asks about her memory, showing concern about it now. There, Ori-shin realizes that Lee-dam remembers everything. She then asks if she was only a bead holder all along, and if Ori-shin never really liked her. She continues asking while crying. Finally, Ori-shin tells her that she's too good for him and that he doesn't deserve her. But Lee-dam confesses her love and asks him to love her too. Ori-shin then hugs her, saying that he warned her that she's too good for him, but now she can't take back her words because he won't let her go. Meanwhile, Jae-jin gives Hae-sun a thick jacket when he sees her feeling cold. To avoid Lee-dam misunderstanding, Ori-shin is forced to explain that Hae-sun used to be a gumiho. Later, when they return, Lee-dam immediately looks for Ori-shin, who had gone home earlier. At campus, Lee-dam asks if she can hold Ori-shin's hand, something she had wanted to do for a long time. Soon after, Ori-shin pulls her closer. On their first date, he brings her flowers. He had planned a modern date based on books and romantic dramas he watched, but Lee-dam didn't expect their date to end at a sauna. While Lee-dam eats, Ori-shin watches her with a puzzled look, as if he wants something, not fully understanding what he's feeling. Shortly after, Ori-shin meets with Hae-sun and shares his feelings. Hae-sun tells him that it's like a wolf falling in love with a sheep, cause the more he wants her, the stronger his hunger becomes. One day, when Ori-shin misses Lee-dam, she shows up and he kisses her. At first, it's just a normal kiss, but it quickly becomes more intense. After that, Ori-shin meets with Hae-sun again. She reminds him that he's nearing 1,000 years old, which means his instincts will crave more of Lee-dam's energy. Hae-sun advises him not to touch her, while Lee-dam, on the other hand, wants to become more comfortable with physical contact. A little later, while at a cafe, women are staring at Ori-shin, but Lee-dam feels embarrassed when he doesn't wipe cream off his lips and tells her to do it herself. Then, when Lee-dam falls in a panic, Ori-shin grabs her by the collar and pulls her up, which makes her mad. At home, Lee-dam starts thinking that maybe Ori-shin is holding back because of that sudden kiss she ended earlier. Meanwhile, Hae-sun tells Ori-shin to eat a lot to satisfy his hunger, and he listens to her. But the next day, Ori-shin cancels his class, which worries Lee-dam. When she goes to see him in his office, Ori-shin grabs her hand, surprising her. Lee-dam realizes that Ori-shin doesn't seem well. Not long after, Hae-sun arrives and takes Lee-dam away from him. Sometime later, Ori-shin tells Hae-sun that he's tried his best, but he still can't control himself. Hae-sun starts thinking that maybe it's time for Ori-shin to keep some distance for a while, because if he takes more energy from Lee-dam, she could be in danger. Meanwhile, Lee-dam is asked to offer free hugs for an event, but surprisingly, Sun-woo steps in to take her place. Sun-woo notices that Lee-dam doesn't look well and even seems to have lost weight. When Lee-dam gets home, she weighs herself and finds out that she's lost 2 kilograms. She then calls Ori-shin and tells him they should keep some distance for a while. Ori-shin agrees, but deep down, he hopes that Lee-dam won't really stay away, even though he's pushing her. The next day, Lee-dam sees Hae-sun talking to Ori-shin. She watches them for a moment, then walks away. Noticing this, Ori-shin sends her a message saying that when he said they should keep distance, he didn't mean that far. Lee-dam reads the message but doesn't reply. Later, she sees Sun-woo looking exhausted from taking pictures and giving hugs to all the students. Lee-dam comes over and gives him a drink to help him out. Meanwhile, Sang-shin warns Ori-shin that if he loves a human, it won't end well. Either the person will die or become a living corpse because humans are meant to be with other humans. Sang-shin then ties a red string of fate around the fingers of Sun-woo and Lee-dam, connecting their destiny. Later, Lee-dam visits a fortune teller with Sun-woo. The fortune teller says that the universe wants them to be together. The fortune teller also mentions another man, but says there's a big age difference between them, like the earth and a tree. If Lee-dam stays with him, she will face hardships. Afterward, Lee-dam tells Jae-jin that maybe the fortune teller is right, but at the same time, she hates what was said. Lee-dam admits that she likes someone more than Sun-woo. But it turns out she's talking to Ori-shin, who had transformed into Jae-jin. Ori-shin did this because he felt too distant from Lee-dam. On the other hand, Jae-jin is actually busy helping Hae-sun, who is being bothered by some guys. After the event ends, Lee-dam announces that she already has a boyfriend. Both Jae-jin and Sun-woo are shocked. Sun-woo then starts drinking and gets drunk, while Jae-jin, also drunk, is taken home by Hae-sun. Seeing Sun-woo drunk, Lee-dam doesn't care at first, but maybe because of the red string tied by Sang-shin, she turns back and helps him. Sun-woo falls into Lee-dam's arms, and Ori-shin sees them. Ori-shin removes Sun-woo's hand from Lee-dam and tries not to worry about the red string tied to his girlfriend's finger. The next day, Lee-dam finds out that Lee-dam is going to visit her boyfriend's house. Meanwhile, Jae-jin is shocked to see Hae-sun drying her hair in a hotel room with him. Hae-sun casually says they slept together, but in Hae-sun's mind, that just means they slept in the same place, while Jae-jin thinks they had a much more intimate moment. At home, Ori-shin is excitedly cleaning his house because Lee-dam is supposed to visit, but something unexpected happens, and Lee-dam has to cancel. It turns out Lee-dam goes to the police station because Lee-dam accidentally knocked over a girl's motorcycle, and the girl broke his bow. But what shocks Lee-dam even more is when Sun-woo arrives as the girl's guardian, who turns out to be his sister, Seo-woo. When two people are connected by the red string of fate, they will always be drawn to each other, no matter what. Ori-shin later tells Hae-sun that Lee-dam and Sun-woo are tied by this red string. Lee-dam then calls Ori-shin, explaining how she had to get involved with Sun-woo because of his sister. Meanwhile, Sun-woo's dad takes away his credit card because he maxed it out, even though Sun-woo was using it to help Seo-woo. On the other hand, Jae-jin tells Lee-dam and Soo-kyung that he suddenly woke up in a hotel room with a woman who wasn't wearing clothes. Hearing this, Soo-kyung and Lee-dam hit him in frustration. After class, Soo-kyung's friend teases her for not getting a perfect score, but Young-suk defends her. Later, Jae-jin meets with Hae-sun and says he'll take responsibility for whatever happened between them. Hae-sun then suggests they start dating, so she can get an A for her project. Elsewhere, Lee-dam meets Ori-shin, and he tells her not to get too close to Sun Woo and not to make him jealous. Meanwhile, without his credit card, Sun Woo goes to his uncle's new restaurant, which opened just 2 weeks ago, to ask for money. His uncle refuses at first, but after noticing that the female customers like Sun Woo, he tells him to work part-time there. Coincidentally, Lee Dam also applies for a job at the same restaurant and starts working that very day. In the library, Young-suk asks Soo-kyung if she dislikes him because of something that happened 2 years ago. It seems like Young-suk knows a big secret about Soo-kyung. After work, Lee Dam gets a call from Ori-shin, who asks about her job and her new co-workers, but Lee Dam can't tell him the truth that she's working with Sun Woo. Later, Ori-shin shows up and sees them together. When Lee Dam brings food home from work, Ori-shin refuses it because Sun Woo is working with her. Lee Dam then tells Ori-shin he can take energy from her because it makes her happy too. She finally admits that she's working with Sun Woo, but Ori-shin says he can't promise not to feel jealous. Ori-shin also reveals why Sun Woo is always on his mind, cause the red string of fate ties Lee Dam and Sun Woo together. As the day goes by, Sun Woo keeps staying close to Lee Dam, and one day after class, she notices the red string on her finger. She tries to remove it but can't. Then, Sang-shin visits Lee Dam and tells her that she has messed up the destiny made for her. He says that while the gods can't see the future, they can show it. Lee Dam is then shown her future with Sun Woo in a dream. Afterward, Ori-shin comes and hugs Lee Dam. There, Sang-shin tells Ori-shin that whatever Lee Dam chooses for her fate, he must accept it with sadness. Since Ori-shin also sees Lee Dam's future, he wakes her up and tells her to stop looking at it. After Lee Dam wakes up, she asks Ori-shin if he saw her future, but Ori-shin lies and says he didn't, even though he actually did. Later, Ori-shin talks to Hae-sun, telling her that Lee Dam and Sun Woo's future looks peaceful and beautiful, with normal, happy days. Meanwhile, Jae-jin lies to Lee Dam and Soo-kyung, saying that it wasn't Hae-sun who stayed with him at the hotel. Not long after, Lee Dam gets a call from Lee Dan asking her to make kimchi herself because he has an important tournament. On the other hand, Hae-sun, worried about rumors that she and Jae-jin are only dating for a good grade, becomes extra affectionate with him in front of their friends. She even calls Jae-jin darling. On the other hand, Ori-shin also wants to do normal couple things with Lee Dam, so he helps her make kimchi. During that moment, Lee Dam realizes that she doesn't care that Ori-shin isn't human, but she worries that as time passes, he'll be left alone. While watching Lee Dam sleep, Ori-shin thinks to himself that at first, he wanted her to go back to her normal life, which is why he let her go, even though it hurt. But now, Ori-shin wants to be part of Lee Dam's future. The next day at campus, Young-suk asks Lee Dam about interviewing a historian, and he plans to ask Professor Shin or Ori-shin to announce it. After the announcement, the people who sign up are Soo-kyung, Young-suk, and Sun Woo. Hae-sun also joins, even though she didn't originally sign up cause Ori-shin asked her to keep an eye on Lee Dam. Hae-sun is allowed to bring her boyfriend, Jae-jin, too. The trip is for 2 days and 1 night, meaning they'll have to stay overnight. Ori-shin admits that he doesn't really want Lee Dam to go, but in the end, he lets her. Once they arrive at the historian's place, they go for a walk. Suddenly, a motorcycle nearly hits Lee Dam, but Sun Woo saves her. Later that night, they play a game of truth or dare. Hae-sun asks Soo-kyung if there's someone she is like from their group, and Soo-kyung admits that there was. When Sun Woo asks Lee Dam about her boyfriend, she replies that she loves him so much that no one could ever change that. Then, Soo-kyung asks Hae-sun about her relationship with Jae-jin, and Hae-sun says that Jae-jin is actually too good for her. Soo-kyung doesn't believe it at first, thinking Hae-sun is lying, but Hae-sun is very serious. As the night goes on, Sun Woo, looking sad, confesses his feelings for Lee Dam, even though he knows she has a boyfriend. When Sun Woo says this, Lee Dam suddenly feels her heart reacting in a strange way. Meanwhile, Jae-jin tells Hae-sun not to worry about what their friends say about their relationship because he is dating her because he truly likes her. Hae-sun then finds Lee Dam and becomes concerned that something might happen between Lee Dam and Sun Woo, especially after hearing about the red string of fate connecting them. Hae-sun also tells Lee Dam that only humans can choose their own destiny. Later, Lee Dam waves to Ori Shin, who comes to pick her up at the airport. But suddenly, she trips over the red string and Sun Woo helps her. Ori Shin then approaches them, and Lee Dam finally tells Sun Woo that Ori Shin is her boyfriend. Sun Woo is shocked. He understands that Lee Dam doesn't love him, but he doesn't think Ori Shin should be with her either because he heard rumors about Ori Shin and another professor named Eugene. Sun Woo even saw them together, but Lee Dam doesn't take it seriously. Instead, Lee Dam worries about Ori Shin, who is holding the red string in his hand. She feels guilty for making the person she loves look sad. In the end, Lee Dam decides to quit her part-time job so she doesn't have to keep seeing Sun Woo. But at campus, she becomes bothered by rumors about Ori Shin, especially after seeing a picture of him holding Eugene's hand. Even Jae-jin tells her he saw Eugene entering Ori Shin's office. Soon after, Lee Dam goes to see him, and it's true cause Ori Shin turns his face away when he realizes Lee Dam is watching. He then hypnotizes Eugene to make her leave. At that time, Lee Dam feels sad that Ori Shin is doing all of this just to become human but never asks for her help. Feeling disappointed, Lee Dam decides to end their relationship. Afterward, Ori Shin tells Hae-sun that his bead had turned blue, giving him false hope, and he used Eugene to keep Lee Dam safe. He didn't want Lee Dam to leave him, but now he realizes that she can always leave. On the other hand, Lee Dam tells Soo-kyung that she broke up with her boyfriend. Soo-kyung then stays with Lee Dam, drinking together until she gets drunk. Knowing that Lee Dam's nickname for her boyfriend is Ori Shin, Soo-kyung finds his contact and sends him a message. Soon after, Ori Shin rushes to the club as soon as he sees the message. However, when he arrives, Soo-kyung, unaware that Professor Shin or Ori Shin is actually Lee Dam's ex-boyfriend, tells him that she texted Lee Dam's ex to help them get back together and that they are now waiting for him to arrive. At campus, Sun Woo meets Lee Dam and promises not to tell anyone about her relationship. Meanwhile, Hae-sun talks to Ori Shin again, explaining that Lee Dam is only afraid that he might end up hurting others. Hae-sun then gives Ori Shin a humanity test. She asks what he would do if he was driving a car with failed brakes and had to choose between hitting one side with Lee Dam or the other side with 5 people. Without hesitation, Ori Shin says he would hit the 5 people, even if they included a pregnant woman, a child, or even Hae-sun herself. There, Hae-sun tells him that he should have had some hesitation before answering. Soon after, she compares Ori Shin to Sun Woo, saying that even Sun Woo's answer wouldn't have been fully human either. Later, Hae-sun meets with Lee Dam and tells her that even though Ori Shin is a fox, he could have easily tricked her, but he didn't. She also explains that Ori Shin's bead has started turning blue, meaning he could become human, though it's only halfway there. After learning this, Lee Dam goes to Ori Shin and says she will help him because she won't let him rely on anyone else. But Ori Shin refuses, saying he doesn't want to put her in danger. Meanwhile, Jae-jin and Hae-sun are studying together when their friends suddenly interrupt them. Hae-sun takes Jae-jin away for some peace. Later, Hae-sun meets Ori Shin and scolds him for not accepting Lee Dam's help, warning that if Ori Shin disappears, it will hurt Lee Dam even more. With no other option, Hae-sun forces Ori Shin to take her hand and absorb her energy, even though they both feel uncomfortable. At that moment, Jae-jin walks by and sees them together. To help Lee Dam, Hae-sun once again teaches her some tips to win Ori Shin's attention, like she had before. Later, Jae-jin confesses to Lee Dam that he has fallen in love with Hae-sun, but he believes Hae-sun likes Professor Shin. Hearing this, Lee Dam doesn't confirm it but doesn't agree either. On her way home, Lee Dam remembers Hae-sun's words and decides that from now on, she will improve herself. She then sends a message to Ori Shin, saying that she won't push him anymore and that she's tired. Soon after, Ori Shin falls right into Lee Dam's trap and she grins mischievously. At campus, Hae-sun is shocked when she goes to meet Jae-jin, only to find him looking cozy with Lee Dam. At the same time, Ori Shin also saw their closeness. As Lee Dam walks up the stairs with Jae-jin, Jae-jin suddenly slips and falls. Hae-sun offers to take him to the hospital, but Jae-jin refuses, choosing to go with Lee Dam instead. He even asks Lee Dam to stop Hae-sun from coming to get him, but Hai-sun overhears and feels hurt. She asks for a breakup, but then turns back angrily, upset that Jae-jin just let her leave without saying anything. At that time, Jae-jin misunderstood her because Hai-sun never liked anyone else, and in the end, they make up. On her way home, Lee-dam purposely breaks the red string to meet with Sang-shin. Sang-shin explains that the energy Ori-shin takes from humans only helps with his hunger, but what really turns the bead blue are emotions. Hearing this, Lee-dam decides to stay with Ori-shin to teach him about humanity. She even plans to sleep in the same bed as Ori-shin, but he refuses, saying one day of suffering is enough for him. The next morning, Ori-shin makes breakfast for Lee-dam. He's very kind to her, but Lee-dam feels confused, wondering what is still stopping him from becoming human. When Lee-dam says she's heading home and tells her friends see you at home, Soo-kyung and Jae-jin overhear her. Then Lee-dam quickly explains that they're going to work on a magazine project at Ori-shin's house. While stopping by a convenience store, Soo-kyung mentions how Ori-shin seems less human because he never gives any guidance after class. So, when they arrive at Ori-shin's house, Lee-dam asks him to offer some career advice and lets Soo-kyung ask questions. But instead of asking about careers, she asks if they can have dinner at Ori-shin's house. During dinner, Lee-dam tries to show her friends that Ori-shin is more human than they think. They then start talking about making up with their partners. Hearing this, Soo-kyung gets upset and criticizes Lee-dam's boyfriend, not knowing it's Ori-shin. And Ori-shin, feel frustrated, asks Lee-dam why she insults her boyfriend by calling him a fox when he's been nothing but kind. He gets so angry that he storms off, feeling like his emotions are boiling over like the water he was cooking. Shortly after, Professor Oh, a teacher disliked by the students, including the three of them, shows up at Ori-shin's house and gives them a lot of homework. To avoid getting more tasks, Soo-kyung and Jae-jin run away. It turns out that Professor Oh was actually Ori-shin in disguise, trying to scare them away. Although Ori-shin has been nice to Lee-dam, she had never told her friends about it. Feeling bad, Lee-dam starts acting cute and playful with Ori-shin to cheer him up. The next day, Lee-dam meets Hai-sun, but Hai-sun is angry at Ori-shin because she thinks he hurt Jae-jin. After finding out that it was actually Sang-shin's doing, Lee-dam tells Hai-sun to apologize, but Hai-sun is confused since she's never done that before. Meanwhile, Sun-woo follows his parents' wishes to study abroad so he can take over the family business. Lee-dam feels stressed because she tried to bring everyone together to make peace, but it just led to more arguments. On her way home, some of Lee-dam's classmates see her holding hands with Ori-shin. They take a picture and post it on social media, and the news quickly spreads around the campus, even reaching Soo-kyung and Jae-jin. Everyone starts gossiping that Lee-dam is getting good grades easily because her boyfriend is a professor. Soon after, Lee-dam meets with her friends and admits that she and Ori-shin started dating before he became a teacher at their school. She explains that she didn't know her boyfriend would end up teaching her class. To clear up any misunderstandings, Lee-dam decides to leave the class. In the afternoon, Sun-woo meets Lee-dam and tells her the reason he likes her. He says this because he's leaving soon to study abroad. After their farewell, the red string of fate that connected them breaks. Lee-dam then tells Ori-shin that she admitted to her friends that they are dating and that she plans to leave his class. Knowing that the red string has been cut, Lee-dam feels happy because now they are in control of their own destiny. Later, Ori-shin meets with Eugene and tells her that he's known all along that she liked him but pretended not to notice. He apologizes for that. After talking with Eugene, Ori-shin asks Lee-dam to invite her friends over for a meal. Before Ori-shin arrives, Jae-jin tells Lee-dam that he once saw Ori-shin holding hands with Hai-sun, which is why he didn't like him. To clear up the misunderstanding, Lee-dam explains that Ori-shin and Hai-sun are actually distant relatives. When Ori-shin arrives, Soo-kyung apologizes to him for hurting his feelings when they visited his house earlier. She admits that she didn't know he was Lee-dam's boyfriend at the time. Long story short, Lee-dam promises Ori-shin that she will help him become human, but she also asks Ori-shin to protect her from getting hurt or dying. They kiss and sleep together. The next morning, Ori-shin wakes Lee-dam up with a kiss, smiling. Even though they try to act normal, they feel a bit awkward, still thinking about the previous night. At school, Soo-kyung suggests some fun nickname ideas for Lee Dam's boyfriend. There, Jae-jin jokes that calling him Ori-shin makes it sound like Lee Dam is volunteering at a senior center. Finally, Lee Dam shyly calls Ori-shin darling, which makes him smile. Soon after, Ori-shin tells her to speak more casually with him, using relaxed nicknames. From then on, Lee Dam sometimes calls him darling, and Ori-shin affectionately calls her Dama. Later, Ori-shin takes out his bead and notices it's almost fully blue. Since Lee Dam can't see it, he draws a picture of it and shows it to her. Lee Dam suggests they try not to do anything bad for a day and instead do at least one good deed. Maybe it will become a habit. But when they arrive at campus, Lee Dam realizes she left an important report at home. Shortly after, Ori-shin uses his powers to teleport them, but something goes wrong, and they end up in Hae-sun's car, surprising everyone. On the other hand, Young-suk is searching for his notebook, but can't find it. Two of Lee Dam's classmates see Soo-kyung nearby and accuse her of stealing it. They also claim that Soo-kyung has liked Young-suk since 2 years ago and became angry when he rejected her. Soon, Lee Dam arrives and demands that the two girls apologize to Soo-kyung, but instead, the four of them get into a fight, pulling each other's hair. Upon seeing that, Young-suk and other friends break them up, and Soo-kyung explains that she doesn't like Young-suk, but Jae-jin. Young-suk confirms this. 2 years ago, when Soo-kyung was asked to dance, Jae-jin stepped in and danced for her, making her see him as a hero. Soo-kyung then wrote him a love letter. Meanwhile, Young-suk had been told to wait for the professor to hand out test papers. At that moment, Young-suk mistakenly thought Soo-kyung was the professor and took the papers she was holding. And Soo-kyung, confused but cooperative, gave them to him. Unfortunately, the love letter she had written for Jae-jin was accidentally copied and handed out to the whole class. Soo-kyung was furious and has hated Young-suk ever since. After everything gets cleared up, someone brings Young-suk's notebook saying it was found on the street. And Lee Dam, feeling frustrated, angrily mutters something rude at Yeom, and as she turns around, Ori-shin sees her. Later, after treating the cuts on Lee Dam's hand, Ori-shin tells her that he will stop teaching at the campus after the semester ends. He explains that when he can no longer use his magic or feel energy, it means he has become human. At that time, Lee Dam starts thinking that Ori-shin will soon become human. Meanwhile, Jae-jin tries to make Soo-kyung stop liking him. However, Soo-kyung begins to feel thankful because in the past, Young-suk stopped her from confessing her feelings to Jae-jin, and in a way, he helped her. On the other side, Hae-sun gets upset with Jae-jin because Jina posted an old photo of them kissing. And what makes her even angrier is that Jae-jin avoids touching Hae-sun, even by accident. Finally, Hae-sun clears up the misunderstanding about their hotel stay. It turns out that Hae-sun slept on the sofa while Jae-jin slept in the bed. Hearing this, he feels relieved and admits that he really likes Hae-sun, and she also likes him. Later, while they are kissing in front of Jae-jin's house, his older brother arrives and tells them to move somewhere else. Ori-shin also finally confesses that he loves Lee Dam. He gives her a heart-shaped necklace as a gift. But just as he's about to tell her that he may soon become human, he notices that he's starting to disappear. As time passes, Ori-shin loses his ability to use magic and his sixth sense, which are signs that he is disappearing. Ori-shin becomes protective and doesn't want Lee Dam to leave when she says she's going to support her brother Lee Dan at a tournament. However, Ori-shin eventually shows up to meet Lee Dam and even teaches Lee Dan some stretches to prevent his body from getting sore. And Lee Dan, impressed, calls Ori-shin brother-in-law, making Lee Dam feel happy with his actions. Sometime later, Lee Dam asks Ori-shin what he would want to do first when he becomes human. However, he doesn't answer and instead spends his days with Lee Dam, going on walks together. At a place where people hang their wishes, Lee Dam shares that she has a fear of sudden goodbyes. She says it's easier if you know in advance when a farewell is coming because an unexpected goodbye would be too painful. As Lee Dam trips, Ori-shin tries to catch her, but suddenly, he disappears and reappears in the middle of a busy street. At that moment, Lee Dam is left confused and worried. Knowing he might disappear anytime, Ori-shin asks Lee Dam to go home and be with Lee Dan, but after he drops her off, Ori-shin cries alone. Later, at home, Lee Dan asks about Ori Shin and mentions that he seemed like he was going far away because he asked Lee Dan to take care of Lee Dam. Hearing this, Lee Dam runs toward Ori Shin's house, calling him on the phone. Suddenly, while running, she is almost hit by a car, but Ori Shin, sensing something bad, comes to her rescue. When Lee Dam looks around, she sees Ori Shin lying in the middle of the road. As she tries to reach him, he disappears. Soon after, Lee Dam breaks down, crying in Hai Sun's arms, remembering the promises Ori Shin had made to her. When Lee Dam looks at a photo of her and Ori Shin, she feels certain that Ori Shin hasn't disappeared. She decides to return to his house, even though she knows it might be in vain. Lee Dam struggles through her difficult days alone. Sometime later, Hai Sun visits Lee Dam. There, Hai Sun explains that Ori Shin once asked to use his bead to erase Lee Dam's memories of him, but Lee Dam refused. She didn't want to forget a single moment, even if it meant being heartbroken for the rest of her life. One morning, when Lee Dam wakes up, she sees Ori Shin sitting on the couch, watching her. Tears fall from her eyes when she sees him again. Sang Shin once said that before Ori Shin fully becomes human, if he could love patiently, sacrifice, and find a reason to live, he would become human. Meanwhile, Hai Sun, who also senses that Ori Shin has come back to life, cries in Jae-jin's arms, deeply moved. Later, Jae-jin still hasn't told Hai Sun about his upcoming military service, fearing she might leave him. On the other hand, Lee Dam and Ori Shin dress up in matching outfits and sunglasses, looking like detectives, but they are just waiting in line to eat octopus at a popular restaurant. Sometime later, Sun Woo says goodbye to his sister, Seo Woo, as he prepares to leave for overseas. Seo Woo looks happy, but deep down, she is actually sad. One day, while standing outside a convenience store, Seo Woo spots Lee Dan walking by. They don't greet each other, but suddenly, a mischievous guy snatches Seo Woo's bag. At that time, Lee Dan helps by shooting an arrow to make the bag hang from a tree. Soon after, the guys run away when they see Lee Dan ready to fire another arrow. Meanwhile, Hai Sun confesses to Jae-jin that she used to be a gumiho. But there, Jae-jin doesn't understand and doesn't care about her strange words. Even if she's still a gumiho now, Jae-jin tells her that he loves her. When Jae-jin says he's leaving for military service, Hai Sun promises to wait for him. A few days later, Seo Woo congratulates Lee Dan for winning a gold medal, and from that moment, it seems like they start to like each other. On the other hand, Lee Dam and Ori Shin make a promise to stay together for a long time, growing old together. And with that, the series comes to an end. The moral lesson from this series is if someone tries to steal your bag, just remember always have a friend with a bow and arrow ready to save the day. And if they miss, at least you'll have a funny story to tell while your stuff hangs from a tree.